I discover that I've got a brain tumor. And my life changed completely. On that date, I'm grieving that I won't maybe see my grandchildren ever. Who cares about money at that point? Fuck it. The median survival rate is like 14 or 15 months for this. And somehow I'm going strong.
I'm Becky Quick. This is The Path from CNBC Cures. My day job as a journalist has taken me to some pretty crazy places. We are live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, live on Capitol Hill for special coverage of the inauguration.
Something you could probably only see right here in China.
I'm Becky Quick in Davos, Switzerland.
But there's another part of my life. I like to say it's the best part. I'm a mom to a 9-year-old daughter with a rare genetic disease. She is one of the millions of Americans with a diagnosis that comes with more questions than answers. Quayle's disease is SYNGAP1. There is no cure. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder that causes conditions like autism, seizures, and intellectual disability. People with SYNGAP often have difficulty communicating in traditional ways.
Grandpa's so...
My daughter is the inspiration for CNBC Cures. Talking about my family's experience isn't easy, but your messages, your emails, the social media and comments right here on the podcast, they all mean so much, and I thank you. Sometimes Quayle, CNBC Cures, and my day job all come together. That's what happened when I was on assignment at the most unusual corporate annual meeting that you can actually imagine wanting to attend.
Here we have everything from cherry dilly bars to the traditional classic chocolate dilly bar.
We are here live in Omaha, Nebraska.
Hey, man, gecko. Woo! One time I met SpongeBob SquarePants, but this is way more exciting.
I've been covering Warren Buffett's famous Berkshire Hathaway annual shareholders meeting for more than 20 years, so you start to get to know people.
No. Hello.
I spoke to a man who is facing the end of his life. We talked about love, truth, grief, hope. It's pretty familiar territory for anyone in the rare disease community.
I read about your daughter last night.
We talked a lot about Quayle and what really matters. We talked about value. It was an intense conversation. There were tears, but there was also laughter and hope, and I want to share this conversation with you. Guy Spier has been among the 40,000 shareholders traveling to Omaha, Nebraska for decades now. He is one of the many who are eager to soak up the wisdom of legendary investor Warren Buffett, the CEO of the conglomerate from 1965 through 2025.
I've compared the markets to a church with a casino attached.
Our chairman, Warren Buffett.
My name's Guy Spier. I met Becky Quick maybe 15 years ago because I had lunch with Warren Buffett.
Until this year, he was a noted investor in his own right, overseeing the hedge fund Aquamarine. He and a friend spent $650,000 in a charity auction for a lunch date that changed his life at that point.
I discovered a year and a half ago that I have GBM, or Glioblastoma, grade 4, and I've just sent all my money back, outside money back to my investors.
In a remarkable letter in early 2026, Spier announced his diagnosis of a rare brain cancer and his intention to close his investment fund, which at the time was worth nearly $500 million.
The person I saw before, that was Pete Children, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. We've had lots of things in my family over the years that have happened, but there's nothing like when it's your child.
We sat down on the sidelines of the Berkshire annual meeting. He brought a few friends, I brought a camera crew.
All I wanted to do now was talk to Becky, you know.
And we started with when he first knew something was wrong, after a day out skiing with his family.
We had a beautiful day. It was a super cold day in November. And on the car journey back from Klosters to Zurich, I had a grand mal seizure. And I was sitting next to my wife in the car. She didn't know what was going on, But the next thing I know, I'm in a helicopter on my way to East London Hospital, an MRI, and I wake up the next day and I discover that I've got a brain tumor. And my life changed completely. On that date, I didn't know what a brain tumor was, and I didn't know it existed. And it certainly didn't happen to me. That happened to other people. I struggled on, or I continued to think that I could live a normal life. But then in the middle of 2025, I had a new series of focal seizures, and I had to have a second surgery, and obviously the treatment hadn't worked. And I then, in the end of December of last year, I had a third surgery, and I could see that I couldn't continue to run the fund. And so I took the decision to send the money back. So it was a very, very difficult year. I feel a lot better now because I sent this letter in January, and that was the first time I could come completely clean and open about what I had. And so although I don't like where I am, at least I'm not living a double life. And for a while there, I was living a double life because the lawyers get in the way and they say, you can't say this to the investors, you have to send the money back in this way, only say this, don't say that.
Really? They told you couldn't tell them what was happening with your health?
I was honest about that I'd had a brain tumor and it was taken out, but they didn't want to have anything that said that maybe my performance had suffered, because that would give them, potentially, the outside investors, the potential to say, we didn't know and you didn't tell us at the right time.
Oh, wow.
And so I was completely free to be completely honest once we'd sent all the money back.
Your letter was so moving. It's the reason I wanted to reach out to you and be able to talk to you here. I didn't know what was going on, but you were so eloquent in how you laid this out. Not only what you're dealing with, but how you're dealing with it. How did you decide what to say? How did you kind of figure out where you are right now?
Everybody's had nightmares, but I've never experienced that you go to sleep and life is wonderful, and then I wake up to the nightmare, and you want to pinch yourself. Who has not woken up and said, oh my God, it was just a nightmare. It's not the real life.
Tell me what glioblastoma is and what the doctors have told you, what you're dealing with right now.
I don't know much, but so glioblastoma is a tumor of the glial cells. Glial cells are not neurons, but they're all over the brain, and they do a lot of cleaning up, and they do a lot of support work for the neurons. They start developing networks of their own, and they start firing like neurons. They're not supposed to fire like neurons. And depending where it happens in the brain, it can happen in all sorts of places in the brain, and the brain is the control center. But unlike other kinds of cancer where you can completely remove the tumor, especially if you catch it early, in glioblastoma, the tumor is within, it's like seeds in the ground, if you like, or fungus. It just like grows everywhere. After my first seizure, I lost my ability to pronounce words in foreign languages. So I used to be good at, I can still read in foreign languages, but I lost my ability to pronounce. I thought that was bad enough, and I complained bitterly to the doctors. I said, this sucks. And they're sort of saying, you've got nothing to worry about. Like call me up when you can't walk, you know? Yeah. And that was like beyond anything that I could think about. Second time, my second surgery, I lost feeling the right side of I lost taste as well. So wine, even good wine, tasted funny to me. And that I didn't like very much. The third surgery, that was the worst because I lost, I cannot type anymore. So I do a lot of amateur videos. So I've lost fine motor control in these fingers. But you tell the surgeon, and he says, oh, I'm not worried about that. I'm like,
wait a second. Yeah, it sucks, but that also worries you about what he thinks is potentially coming.
You know, that's what's so hard. I mean, I don't know what, I am sure it's the same with you. The doctors are the most kind, gentle, they care so much. You know, and the doctor is, in this case, the surgeon, who's basically become a friend. I mean, I've got him on speed dial. Right. You know, and it's funny because I said, how can I survive the best? And he says, you need to keep a positive mental attitude.
Okay.
And so I say, but you're a doctor. You know, so how does that work scientifically? Mm-hmm. And he says, I don't know, but it works. I say, are you a scientist or are you some kind of like quack? You know, and he never really explained it, but I went through a depression. It was terrible. It was very, very difficult. And I tried everything. And at some point I realized that getting upset about it was not going to help. So I stopped getting upset about it. And I really did discover that movement, any kind of movement, helps. So if I'm on the rowing machine, whatever I do that engages in movement helps me feel better. So I do as much as I can, which is a lot less than I would like to do.
And the positive mental attitude, you think it works? That's...
You know, there's that moment when you can fall into depression or to feel unhappy and to feel, why did this happen to me? And it sucks and I don't want it. And every time I've allowed myself to go in that direction, I haven't found anything good there. So it's like, why go there again?
We're at the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting in Nebraska. When I heard you were coming, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to talk to Guy.
Yeah, I'm so
I want to
pleased.
see what he's doing. What's the experience been like for you here?
So I love being here. It's my happy place. I've been coming for the last 20 years or more, and I have so many friends here from all over the world, and there's non-stop fun, non-stop meeting people and hanging out. But I did too much yesterday. So I was all day on the floor. I was in the meeting, listening to your interview, doing 3 things at once, saying hello to people. And I finally got to bed at 12 o'clock last night.
Wow.
That was a little bit late for me. And then this morning, I'm frustrated because I want to go running. And I want to go for the run. I had the precursor to a focal seizure called, what is it called? An aura. So my upper lip started shaking a little bit. And I started to feel numbness, more numbness than usual in my thumb. And that is it can be a precursor to a seizure. It can also be a panic attack. Right. And it is a reminder to me, I want to feel that everything is okay and I can go running with the rest of them and sport and work out. And it's a reminder to me that I'm not okay.
How are you feeling right now? Did the rest
great.
help? Okay.
Yeah. And talking to you feels great. I feel your energy of empathy, and that comes across very, very clearly. And if I may be so bold, the woman that I met 15 years ago, that was a different woman.
You don't know what's going on in other people's lives. But when you talk about it or I talk about it, it gives you a connection, and then you instantly have a deeper relationship and a deeper revelation of what's happening with someone.
And the funny thing is that I know that I'd rather be innocent. And I'd rather not have that deeper connection, if you like.
Me too.
And yeah, exactly. There's
Me too. But if we're here, it's I think we're better off for it.
Yeah, but we'd rather be innocent.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. You're right. There's knowledge and information that I really wish I didn't have. The year that you and Monesh decided to go after that charity auction, the Glide charity auction.
What's your plan for this lunch?
We'll be talking about anything they're interested in. We'll talk as long as they want to talk, and we'll talk about the subjects they want to talk. And if you want to pay $660,000, we'll talk about anything you want to talk about, Becky.
The winner dines with 7 friends and Buffett himself at the Smith & Wollensky restaurant here in New York City. And the winners for this year's lunch join Miss Becky Quick.
Hi, Dylan. Hello, everybody. The winners this year are Manish Pabrai and Guy Spier. $650,100 is what you two paid to have a 2.5-hour lunch with Mr. Buffett. Was it worth it?
The lunch is free. All the money went to Glide. And how many times do you give to charity? And you don't get a lunch with Warren Buffett, so this had double bonus.
You guys sound like you're still kind of walking on clouds here.
Absolutely.
First of all, why did you do that? And second of all, let's talk about the experience.
You know about the experience very well. But I thought it was the dumbest idea in the world. I really did.
Why'd you do it?
Yeah, because I was like, I'm going to pay all of this money to just have lunch with somebody. And Manish convinced me to do it. He said, look, it's not just lunch. It's not paying a charity. You actually sit and talk to him for 3 or 4 hours. And we know so much about him, but we'll learn more and all of these things. He convinced me very quickly that it was the right thing to do. So I was nervous as hell. Did you pick up on that?
No, nervous that when you were sitting down to lunch with him?
The worst, yeah, all through. The worst thing was that I was afraid that he wouldn't like me. But it was a magical experience, and I did learn an enormous amount. And I mean, you know Warren far better than I do, but just being in the room with him once, and that's the only time I really talked to him fully. I mean, a couple of times maybe in his office for 5 minutes. I learned so much about how it is to be somebody in his shoes. First of all, I learned that I would never be Warren Buffett, and there wasn't any point trying.
I didn't realize you were so nervous beforehand. Afterwards, how did you feel?
I was dazed. I was like, first of all, I wanted to continue forever and ever and ever. And he was there for like 3 and 4 hours, but at some point, we had to shut it down. I mean, it's now 15, 20 years later, so maybe I'm not dazed now. But it was you have these moments which fundamentally change you, and that fundamentally changed me.
Let's talk about investing and value investing, which you've long employed. When you look at your diagnosis and you look back at value investing, you've written a couple of things that I thought were pretty interesting. The time you spent on mining stocks. You kind of wonder why you spent so much time on mining stocks.
I always ask the question, should I have been an investor, actually? Because I think I may have been a good academic. And I really do think today there are too many people, and I'm quite likely one of them, whose mind would have been better used. I mean, we have too many people trying to chase money in the stock market, and that's not good for society. And I'm one of those people. And in a way, I'm glad that I'm not in that race anymore. And, maybe I should have become an engineer with Elon Musk, try to do something there. I mean, he really is making a difference in a way that all these financial people are not. And there's room for a few of them. But should I not have gone and done something else? I mean, I've opened up a whole new world of biochemistry and medicine, and you see these great people working for their whole lives to make some discovery that may make our lives better. And if just a little bit of that brain power, that, I have some brain power, went in that direction, or in going to Mars, or whatever else it is, rather than just trying to make money in the stock market. So I do have some regrets in that regard. I forgive myself, if you like, but once you've hit a certain target about what net worth you want to have and how much is enough, maybe it's time to start doing something else.
Where are you right now, just in terms of, you said you're trying to take on as many potential cures and therapies as you can.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What does that mean?
I didn't want to know, and it's in the letter, about my disease. I wanted to live my life. And I think that after my 3rd surgery, I realized I have to engage with it. And especially because we were out of all the standard of care.
Right.
So I am not really very knowledgeable about the biochemistry behind what I've got and what cures there are. So I've done my first experimental treatment, which involves re-irradiation of the tumor with a photosensitizer, which makes it more likely that it will kill tumor cells. So I spent a month in a hospital in Münster in Germany, which is a wonderful place with wonderful doctors. And I was doing you have a CNBC Squawk Box. I have the Education of a Value Investor podcast. And I was interviewing various people. It's fun to do, and you learn about all sorts of things. Now I've done my first podcast interviewing the doctors who treated me in Münster. In a way, it's the same idea that you're doing with this, which is shine a spotlight on the people who are doing basic research to further medical knowledge. And so that's my first treatment. The second treatment, I hope I qualify for it, will be a personalized vaccine that will happen in the University of Tübingen with a company called CGAT. And it's not proven. It may work, it may not work, it may extend life, it may not. And by the way, here's and somehow in the last 2 months, I don't know, I have, this year I started taking antidepressant medication. I mean, we have plenty of therapists in our lives. So I have a a psychotherapist who's an oncologist, psycho-oncology, and I go to her, and she says, look, you can titrate it doing a drop by drop. So I started with 1 drop of escitalopram, and then 2 drops, and then 3 drops. Now I'm on 10 milligrams, which is the equivalent of 10 drops. Yeah. And I want to taper it off. And the various people have said, no, I can't taper it off. Why was I saying that? I was saying that for a good reason, yes. Because I don't know if it's the escitalopram or something else, but recently I've just come to this place where I just said, fuck it. You know, I don't fucking care. I am beyond the date. So the median survival rate is like 14 or 15 months for this. And somehow I'm going strong. So every day is basically a gift. So I might as well celebrate. Yeah. And I don't know if that, I hope it stays that way. I don't know when at some point something will happen, like I'll have a seizure or I'll lose something that is valuable to me, that I'll go into a depression again. Yeah. But I know that I have to celebrate today. I don't know where that came from or what we were saying before or afterwards, but it was important to say, I think. So.
No, it is. I mean, it's just in terms of what you're dealing with, what the diagnosis is, how you fight that, and what the next steps are.
So, you know, I've said this many times, and at some point I'll be repeating myself, but I don't know how many people have heard it. But so Warren, in his letter, his final letter, he says that the batting average of the Grim Reaper is 100%. Right. You know, he gets us all in the end. But I don't like this idea of a battle of cancer or a battle with any disease, because at the end of the day, we all die. Yeah. And I like this idea of you playing a game against the Grim Reaper. And for every day that you're around, our job is to win as many points against the Grim Reaper as we possibly can. Yeah. And that we do that by not hurting ourselves or others and doing the things that we love, doing this interview, being with your daughter, having a family meal. And somehow, right now, I hope it stays that way. Monash used to say, he's not afraid of death, I'm afraid of death. That's completely flipped, it seems to me, right now. You know, I don't know how long it stays that way. And you know, something else that I don't know, I mean, I sense from you that you have strong love and support around you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very fortunate to have my husband, to have my children, my parents, my brothers, and my sisters-in-laws. So there's a very strong support system.
So I feel like the only reason why I can be the way I am is because I feel deeply loved. Yeah. And there's something like courage or heart, but it doesn't come from me. It comes from the love that comes in from me. And I think that I'd be a wreck if I didn't have that unconditional love coming in, and I have a huge amount of it, more than most people. And so that's where I can be brave. And it's actually not brave, it's because I have so much love coming in, if you like. And I haven't completely figured out in my head, but the two somehow go together, you know.
What is it about sharing your story? What really motivated you to do that?
I remember the first time I was at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting, and I realized that this guy was just telling the truth. He was just saying how it is. And that's not who I was at that moment. First of all, I mean, the Charlie Munger famous expression, you know, if you tell the truth, you don't need to worry about what you've said to whom and when. And so I wanted to get the truth out there. I didn't know what would happen. And I didn't know where it would go. But I know, and actually, I thought that I'd feel better after writing the letter than I did. So I thought that I'd feel complete release and complete happiness. But it's a miserable thing to have to write about the fact that you're shutting down your fund and the way your life, you thought your life would be going is not how it's going. I mean, it's not the way you want it. It's a tragedy in a way, and it's an awful thing.
You have a theory that you wrote about, and I think it's one that's pretty important to rare disease, and that is this idea of the bathtub situation, the draining bathroom. Yeah. So what is that emptying bathtub theory?
Yeah. So if you have a chronic disease, you have where you live a long time with some kind of disability, you have lots of people around who will continue to learn about the disease and to advocate for cures and to talk to doctors about it and to talk in public about it, but it's happening. It's not as fast as being shot to death, but it's happening so fast. So the bathtub is that you have the number of people who are getting the disease, but the bathtub never gets to get filled with the focus groups and support groups because it's being emptied the whole time, unlike other diseases.
Right, and the patient population, it's really hard to do trials because those trials take time.
The big drug companies aren't interested because they're small markets, and they're interested in big markets like weight loss drugs. Right. And so there are many drugs that are on the shelf or cures that are potential, but you need a lot of money behind them to get them through what is called, I don't know if you know, the Valley of Death. The Valley of Death is from a pre-trial to what is it called, phase 3. Yeah. You know, that is the Valley of Death, and to get through it. I mean, I've been learning so much. So now I'm starting to say, well, in my case, maybe I should fund some of that research. I could take a certain chunk of the money that I built up and fund it, and I'm willing and happy to do it. And so there are some entrepreneurs who they're more interested in making a lot of money. And so they have one lottery ticket. And so they don't want to partner with big drug companies, not yet, because it'll be too dilutive for them. Then there's the other side, people who really just want to advance the science and they don't care about making money. And so I'm learning about a whole new universe of people who are out there. And I was telling the analyst in my office, I said, you know, I know how to make money. It's going to Berkshire Hathaway and following those kinds of people and making those kinds of investments. All of the investments in the biotech space, they're binary outcomes. There are many gaps in what we could be doing to advance cures for rare diseases, which just need a little bit more of attention, which is why what you're doing is great. And I feel so privileged to be here to help you to do that.
I'm so glad to get to sit down and talk with you. I mean, Guy, from the minute I read your story, you've just been so eloquent in how you've written about it and in how you are handling it. How did you get to that Zen spot?
My wife. I don't know what it would be like to have somebody who ran away from what I'm going through. And in a way, we've gotten a lot closer. But I think at the end of the day, if I didn't have my wife who gave me unconditional love, that would not help. And, you know, it's funny, I was thinking it's possible that in GBM, I may be the most prominent person who's got it and the most able to direct my own, because now we're beyond HMOs and people reimbursing. But I'm able to pay for therapies privately. So I'm perhaps the most likely to find therapies that work, if you like. I'm willing to go on every trial that will have me. But I don't know at what point. So last year, I mean, there were times when Laurie would drop me off at the office and I would just be with tears streaming down my face because, and after the hospital visit, after the doctor's visit, where he brings me up to speed or us up to speed about what my outlook is like, which is not pleasant. And, you know, I say to Laurie, this is not the life that I wanted to give you, you know, and you're sort of grieving that I know you understand. I'm grieving that I won't maybe see my grandchildren ever, or I won't see my children get married, or I won't see my children graduate from university. And who cares about money at that point? And I don't know when I'm going to fall into that again. But I've realized that there's only a certain amount of grief that one can do. I just say, fuck it, you know, I'm here. And actually, in my case, you know, yeah, I can't type, but I'm here, I'm talking to you. I didn't have a focal seizure this morning. So life is, I went for a 1.2 kilometer run, but I went for a run. So celebrate that, not what I will not be able to do tomorrow.
I love that. That is the right attitude to go into this.
Yeah, I just hope I keep it. And what it's worth saying that I don't feel brave because I don't know if I'll be that way tomorrow. So I don't know when it will change, you know. But yeah.
I love that.
Well, you know, and we haven't talked about your journey. And I only found out about your journey last night. Yeah. I was innocent to how much suffering there is in the world. And I was so blessed. I mean, I had 61 amazing years where I didn't even know what suffering was. You know, I thought suffering was having a bankruptcy or something like that. But I also realized that there's so much more suffering out there, so much more than I can even imagine. And I know that you're going through something very, very similar.
Yeah.
And my heart goes out to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I do go back to this all the time, and I think you said this when you sat down, just how fortunate you and I have both been, and
yeah,
our families too. And I think your attitude is the right one coming at this, and this is information we wish we didn't have, but we're here. So what do we do with it?
Yeah, and we talk about it,
right?
Partly. Talk about it doesn't solve the problems, but somehow it makes it better. Yeah. And we share and we empathize.
And then we hope that somebody else takes something away from any of this. There's too many people who don't talk about it, who feel too alone.
That's true. That's true. And we're both lucky with that. Well, congratulations for you, because that, you know, I was not speaking to such a big audience when you went public with what you went public with.
Yeah.
And does it feel better for you?
Some days not. Look, I'll be honest with you. Some days I don't feel like talking to everybody else about it. And there's sometimes you can't escape that. But I'm gratified by how many people are willing to share their stories with me now. I think that makes me a more approachable person, and I'm really grateful to hear, because I think it's easy to feel sorry for yourself or for your family or for anybody else until you're able to pick your head up and look around and try and be there for each other, right?
Yeah. There's something that I learned a long time ago, which is if you try and help somebody else, somehow makes your pain less.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And but you know, it sucks.
It does.
It does fucking suck, you know? And
it does.
Yeah.
I'm really glad to see you, Guy.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you too. Yeah, thank you. By the way, I'm happy to share. So I have a medical device in my head that I have not yet used, but the bump here that you see is actually something called an Amaya reservoir. And at some point they may introduce something straight into my brain that may help in one way or another. So I don't know if you can see it, but I have a little bump, and I think I should have a Mohican, or what do you call it? A Mohawk.
Mohawk, yes.
Yeah, but I was going to go somewhere else about that, but I've forgotten what I was going to say.
So what's the device? What will it potentially do?
So it's a catheter, basically, that leads into the resection cavity. And so you have something called the blood-brain barrier, which makes it very hard for most drugs to get into the brain. I can see you know all about it.
Yeah.
But this is a way of introducing certain therapies straight into the brain.
So it's basically like a shunt that avoids the blood-brain barrier.
Correct. Yeah. And I don't fully understand the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
And it made a horrible sound after my operation. Whenever I went to the toilet, I was so is that maybe too much information? But so the first time I had to do a number 2 after my operation, you know, again, who gives a shit?
Right.
Fuck it, you know? I might be dead in a week, you know, so who cares? I had this gurgling sound.
Okay.
And I was scared as hell. So I'm on the phone to my surgeon saying, I have this gurgling sound. What is going on?
Right.
You know, and he said, oh, it's fine. You know, so it's worth saying, all the surgeons are complete optimists. You have to be an optimist to be a surgeon. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a fucking surgeon. You'd be something else. So they always believe everything is going to be fine.
What are you guys doing? Are you riding with your brother?
I've been traveling a lot recently, both for work and for family events.
Here you go. Wave to daddy. Wave to daddy.
And I really kind of worry about getting away from our routines, because when you have a special needs child, routine is key. But my daughter Kaylee surprises me. She shines really brightly in situations where I might have fear. Kaylee is fearless.
So after my first surgery, I lost the ability to pronounce words in a foreign language the way I was used to pronounce them. So I used to be able to do a pretty good error in Spanish. Now I need to practice it, and it's nowhere near good. And I have a Mexican wife, so that to roll your R's, and I can't. And I used to be able to, exactly. I used to do it a bit better. And also, I have trouble finding words in English. So I was trying to find the name of my friend Jillian, and I just couldn't find it. And the neurologist said, "Don't worry about it. That's not terrible." And I'm like, "Yeah, fine for you to say. That is, I'm in my brain. That's who I am. That's who my personality is. And you say it's not a problem, it's a problem." But my wife, I don't say that she loves it, but she says, "Finally, you're thinking a little bit slower and you're not talking as fast, and I can get a word in edgeways." So she actually enjoys it in that regard. But yeah.
Yeah, that is the bright side of things, right? To find those.
There are silver linings,
Yeah.
and I don't know how you will take this, given where you are. And so two things. One is that I think that from the outside, you think that everybody who's suffering a rare disease is going through the same journey.
Yeah.
But actually, every journey is individual and different. And I think that that's true within GBM. And so even, I don't know what it's like with what you have.
My daughter has SYNGAP, and you're right. Every SYNGAP patient has a different variation of it, different degrees of difficulty.
Yeah. My children have grown up with more of anything they could possibly ask for.
Yeah.
And we've been completely open with them, with what I've got. And my eldest daughter is at Columbia. I have two children who are now going to be at Northeastern University. And, but they were, to varying degrees, less responsible than I think that they could have been at their age. But when this happens, they develop a lot of responsibility. And so that's a silver lining. I now see them taking their lives a lot more seriously, and they are aware in a way that few children their age are of how precious and valuable life is, and you can't just consider your father will be around for the next 10 years. Now, I hope you don't mind me saying it, but I don't know the pain that it is to not be able to give your daughter the things that we want for all our children, to graduate from university, from high school, to have normal friends, to have her first love affair, to get married. And in a way, I have had all of those things, and my children will have all of those things. And all I can do is say, I can't, I mean, I don't know, did anybody know how to handle you and how to give you comfort?
Kaylee wakes up every day and smiles, and she laughs every day. And I think those are small victories, but they're victories we'll take every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
My brother had a traumatic brain injury, and I used to try and figure out how to comfort my mother. And that's what I would tell her, is that Brian would laugh every day. And I think you probably realize this, that you take the gifts that we're given every day.
Right.
And you have to embrace those. And sometimes it's easier to keep pushing through when people aren't so nice to you. So you're being far too nice to me.
Oh.
But I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest lesson we all take, is don't take things for granted.
And take every gift,
right,
as they're given.
Right.
I find myself wishing that my wife was here right now, because she would know how to be in this situation much better than me.
You're doing great. Oh, gosh, I've lost my train of thought now. Sorry.
Yeah, good. I'm going to learn. Thank you.
Do you need a tissue?
I'm like, okay, I'll take one. Yeah.
I hope that's not the one I already wet my nose with. All right, let's talk a little bit about value investing. how you got into that to begin with, and how you became a follower of Warren Buffett's. Why did you start coming here?
So I took a very bad decision after graduating from business school, because I thought that this guy, who was a kind of a Pied Piper, who was also a Harvard Business School graduate, was willing to make me a vice president. And I thought that was a big deal. And he said, you will be doing deals from day one. They were shitty deals, I can tell you. But so that's what I was doing. And it was miserable, and I hated it. And I should have left that job right away for the first 2 weeks and redone my career plan. But during that time, I walked into a bookstore it was called Bloomberg Books. It was on Broadway, downtown, a little further down from Wall Street. And I picked up Fibonacci on bonds. I picked up The Intelligent Investor. I read The Intelligent Investor, Introduction with Warren Buffett, and I was hooked. And then I started playing with mock portfolios with nets, and it worked. And I saw that the returns were higher than I would have just picked some stupid stocks. And so my father says, well, if you like the guy so much, why don't you write to him? And maybe he can offer you a job. I'm like, he's not going to offer me a job. He's got plenty of people. But I did was order up the annual report. I call up headquarters, because there was no internet of that type at that time. I said, can you send me an annual report? And I read the annual report. And this is maybe 1994, something like that. And then I say, well, what would Warren Buffett do in my shoes? And so I look at the portfolio companies, and he's got Coca-Cola. So I order up the annual report of Coca-Cola, and Geico was a publicly traded company. So I order up that annual report, and Cap City's ABC. And I see 3 businesses that are gushing cash, and the net income line is far smaller than the cash flow from investments line. And I see that even in those days, those companies were all buying back shares. And it's like, it's better than an MBA. I never got taught that in the MBA. And I said, I want to be doing what he's doing. And then I showed up in Omaha. And
for an annual meeting?
Yeah, I showed up and I bought some shares. I didn't know I wanted to be an investor until I saw Warren Buffett. And I said, that's what I want to be doing. And I like the fact that he's not selling to anybody. And then I realized that I could combine being not very good at sales, not very good at all the EQ stuff, but I was maybe a good analyst, and I thought that I could be like him. But the minute I came here, my world changed.
Yeah.
But then my father comes along and says, look, why don't you invest my money? And I gave up. And I was lucky I could start with money that my father gave me, and then I got friends and family, and so I started from there, if you like.
So Aquamarine is really the equivalent of the Buffett partnership, the early days. That's what you were.
Poor substitute. But and that's I mean, all of these things, but you don't you only have to get a small proportion of what Warren Buffett got right to have an amazing result.
And I think you said at one point too, I forget where I read this, value investing is about patience. And how do you think about patience and how that plays out now?
In a way now, I'm very impatient. What sucks is these medical advances take so much time. We want it yesterday, basically. Yeah. When it comes to value investing, I mean, I think that I'm so bad at executing. I'm unable to put on my clothes in the morning. Yesterday, I lost 3 things during the day. I lost my phone at one point. I lost my bag at some point. I'm just like, it's hard to change the world when you can't find your keys.
What did you say? If you wait long enough, you win. Maybe a lot, maybe a little, but you win. Is that still your view on life today?
It's, so you've asked me a question that I haven't. So it's definitely true with where you want to invest your money. And, whether you win big or small, that's where you want to be. I mean, it's taken me for a complete loopy that I haven't really started to figure out, because suddenly I don't have all the time in the world. At least I don't. I mean, I can invest for future generations in the investing side. When it comes to me personally, my term discount rate is actually very high now because I need to bring all of this consumption into the present in all sorts of ways. So I've been using NetJets a lot more. I've been flying business and first class a lot more. We got an expensive bottle of wine last night, so yeah, all of that consumption is coming into the present, if you like. It's just that I won't, maybe I will. Maybe I'll live for another 20, 30 years. I hope so.
Yeah.
But if I don't, I won't live to see the results. Does that?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
And I think that I was very, very happy in my life. And some people are this way. I enjoyed, in a way, saving for the future, saving up consumption for a future date. I didn't need so much consumption for the present. I loved what I was doing. Strange things. I mean, I was always reading self-help books. I was reading the biographies of the great and best business people out there. Now I'm just reading classics because I really don't care about what Elon Musk did recently, although it's great to look from a distance. Why? Because I don't care anymore in a way. My whole orientation to certain things in life has completely changed.
Guy, I love sitting down with you. I so appreciate your evolution of thought on so many things. It makes me sit back and try to reevaluate my own list of what's the most important thing too. And it's hard to do when you're busy all the time. I really thank you.
Yeah.
For putting a focus on that and for sitting down with us today.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. It has been a privilege going on this journey with all of you. We have one remaining episode of our first season of The Path. John Crowley is a father who wouldn't take a grim diagnosis or the word no for an answer. He raised $100 million to save his 2 children from a severe and often fatal disorder.
So the science, the technology is there. It's just exploding. We're in the golden age of medicine. We're not on the cusp anymore. We're curing these diseases. And the biggest challenges, Becky, are man-made. We're getting in our own way.
You can subscribe to the CNBC Cures weekly newsletter for our latest stories, video clips, and more resources. Send us an email, cnbc.cures@cnbc.com. Episodes of The Path are on YouTube, cnbc.com, and podcast platforms. We'd love it if you would share your thoughts and ideas in the comments. A big thank you to our producers and the supportive team at CNBC, and we'll see you next time.